Imagine a motorcycle from 1955. Terrible suspension, woeful power, leaking fluids, and charmingly simple with tiny little bicycle tires and an itty-bitty frame. Now imagine shoving a 500cc liquid-cooled V8 that could propel that bike to 172 miles per hour. Long before the Turbo Hayabusa, the H2, or hell, even the original H2 Mach 4 Widowmaker, there was this. The 1955 Moto Guzzi Otto Cilindri, a bike so dangerous that Moto Guzzi couldn't even get racers to race it. In today's video, I'm going to tell you the story of this insane V8 1950s motorcycle because it is the original and ancient Turbo Busa of its time, and I just think it's amazing. Moto Guzzi has been making motorcycles under different ownership since 1921. They're actually considered to be the oldest continuously operating motorcycle company in Europe. It was originally founded by Carlo Guzzi and two brothers, Giorgio and Angelo Parodi. Since the 1930s, Guzzi used motorcycle racing to promote the sale of their flagship motorcycles. As the old adage goes, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Their flagship motorcycle engine was a 500cc single-cylinder four-stroke that had a unique design that put the exhaust valve on top and the induction valve on the side, a decision that was contrary to the usual inlet-over exhaust design found in most similar engines. By the 1950s, Moto Guzzi was a class contender with their 250 and 350cc bikes. They had won 5 consecutive 350cc class world championships between 1953 and 1957, and they were eager to extend their success into the 500cc class. MotoGP, or Grand Prix Motorcycle Racing, was first established in 1949 by the International Motorcycling Federation. There had been many motorcycle road races leading up until this point, but MotoGP was the first to coordinate rules and regulations that would lead to a world championship. Unlike World Superbike or Isle of Man TT, MotoGP teams utilize purpose-built motorcycles that are designed and built with the intent on winning races and are not available for sale as production models to the general public. Although lots of technology and innovations derived from MotoGP bikes have trickled down into production models throughout the years, but what this really meant is Moto Guzzi was free to engineer to their heart's desires and make the fastest, most ludicrous motorcycle the racetrack had ever seen. Moto Guzzi had many motorcycle engineering milestones under its belt, and the V8 Otto was the result of a natural progression of innovation during their glory days in the beginning of MotoGP. The embryonic years of Grand Prix motorcycle racing were dominated by Italian brands like Galera and MV Agusta, who were using 4-cylinder engines in the 500cc class. Moto Guzzi knew they had to do something different and they have any chance of victory. Limited by displacement, recreating another 4-cylinder engine would yield marginal, if any, gains. In the most basic understanding of a motorcycle engine, a motorcycle can make more power if it has the ability to continue to rev at high RPMs. Sure, Guzzi could have modified the bore-in stroke slightly to have a higher redline, but that would have created an engine that was wider in the frame and impeded handling. The same thing could be said about an inline 6-cylinder engine. There would be more smaller pistons that could rev and make more power, but at the expense of overall engine size. So instead, Moto Guzzi said, let's f*** around and find out, and opted for a 500cc V8 engine. The engine was designed in a way that the bike itself was not much wider than a modern V-twin race bike. The Moto Guzzi Otto Cilindri was designed by Giulio Cesare Carcano, an engineer who worked for Moto Guzzi for 30 years, from 1936 until 1966. Not only did he mastermind the liquid-cooled dual-overhand cam V8 that is the subject of today's video, he also designed the air-cooled transverse V-twins that Guzzis are famous for. After designing this motorcycle, Guzzi were a little coy tricksters and leaked photos of the Otto to the press, urging them to guess the engine configuration. The new V8 was so outlandish in its mechanical hubris that not a single journalist was able to correctly infer the magnitude of prowess. I already mentioned how Moto Guzzi had deviously made the decision to spread the 500cc displacement across 8 cylinders instead of 4 to allow the engine to rev higher and make more power it did. The Otto made 78 horsepower at 12,000 RPM, a figure that may seem small by today's standards, but in 1955, 78 horsepower is nearly 15% more than the competition, and the bike weighed practically nothing. Guess how much this bike weighed? Seriously, you won't be able to guess. It weighed 326 pounds. That is less than what a MotoGP bike of today with super modern components and plenty of carbon fiber weighs. It weighed 326 pounds and was capable of reaching a top speed of 172 miles per hour. 172 miles per hour on a 326-pound bike from the mid-1950s that was essentially a bicycle frame with a bubble fairing. That top speed record wouldn't be beaten in Grand Prix racing for another 20 years. The Otto had many other forward-thinking design elements as well. Due to the V8 configuration, the designers knew it could not adequately be cooled by air alone, so it outfitted with liquid cooling. A feature that was not standard in the era of air-cooled singles, twin, and four-cylinder engines. It also made use of 8 individual 20mm carburetors, one for each cylinder. Oh my god, 8 carburetors, can you even imagine? Hey guys, let me take a quick break in today's video to shout out the sponsor, Rockform. We've worked with Rockform for a while now, and they truly make the best phone cases for handlebar mounts for motorcyclists, but they also have a whole system you can use these cases with. If you get the Rockform case, you can attach it to all kinds of accessories and devices. Their phone cases have military-grade protection to ensure your digital lifeline stays intact in case you send it a little too hard on your Turbo Busa or your 1955 Moto Guzzi V8. Their magnetic cases easily lock into the Rockform handlebar phone mount, so you can quickly attach and detach your phone in just a second. Or you can slap it on any magnetic surface, like a toolbox while you try to struggle to install your slip-on exhaust because you lost your spring puller tool. If you're worried about vibrations damaging your phone's camera, Rockform also sells a vibration dampener that works with any existing Rockform case or phone mount, so you don't have to worry about damage to your phone's sensitive internals. If you follow the link down below and use the code YN25, you will receive 25% off your order. Again, that's YN25 for 25% off your order. Check out the whole Rockform ecosystem, because once you get the case, you can unlock all kinds of other stuff for your Rockform. Thanks again for Rockform for supporting the channel. Now back to the video. But it was not all sunshine and rainbows for the Extreme Otto. While plenty of time, energy, and resources had gone into the development of the engine, it still had shortcomings that led to mechanical failures during races. Engine aside, essentially every other part of the motorcycle fell short as well. Braking and suspension technology just didn't exist at the time that was capable of taming a motorcycle that made so much power. A common design choice at the time was to have the engine further back in the frame, putting more pressure on the rear tire to improve traction. As a result, less weight on the front forks, and the Otto was prone to speed wobbles and other handling issues. Can you even imagine? Not to mention, this thing was riding on what were essentially bicycle tires. It has a 2.75-inch tire in the front and a 3-inch tire in the back. Guys, a 3-inch tire for a motorcycle. During every race in the 1956, the Otto either faced mechanical failures or rider crashes. Some improvements were made before the 1957 season. The Otto saw a few podium positions early in the season until more mechanical failures led to unfinished races. The need for such rapid spark across 8 cylinders was just too much for the electrical systems of the time, causing yet another failure point. By the end, the Otto had become so notorious, many of the best racers of the time refused to pilot the machine without further development. Ultimately, the Moto Guzzi brand deemed the Otto Cylindri that proved too costly and complicated to continuously build and update. Guzzi, along with many other manufacturers, ultimately withdrew from racing in 1957 due to cost. Although they withdrew early on Grand Prix racing history, Moto Guzzi had come away with many race wins, 8 World Championships, 6 Constructors' Championships, and 11 Isle of Man victories. The Moto Guzzi Otto Cylindri predated many other innovative motorcycles that were deemed not long for this world. Motorcycles like the original H2 Mach 4 or even the turbocharged motorcycles made by the Big Four during the 1980s. Sometimes the world just isn't ready for a bike that challenges everything we think we know about motorcycles, or at least the supplementary technology like brakes and suspension just aren't there yet. A sport that is inherently dangerous can become exponentially dangerous when engineers set their sights on speed, with less regard for the other components of a motorcycle. Despite this, the Otto is still regarded as one of the most significant motorcycles in history. I mean, how many other bikes had racers refusing to ride them? That's gotta count for something. Interestingly enough, by the late 1990s, there were only 2 functional Moto Guzzi's V8s still in existence, and during a parade lap at the Isle of Man TT races in 1998, the owner of one of the remaining Ottos, a descendant of a Guzzi engineer, managed to crash the machine. I guess they weren't joking about it being an unwieldy beast. Hope you enjoyed this video. This one was a ton of fun to research. Do you think you could handle riding the infamous Guzzi V8? Do you think a Turbo Hayabusa would be better or worse in a corner? Let me know. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Fact: while filming Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, they couldn't get a permit to film a scene. They filmed it anyway, and the studio hired a fall guy to claim to be the director and spend a night in jail. Goodbye. Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yami Noob video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yami Noob. Don't forget to keep watching Yami Noob. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yami Noob.